This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central on a brand new day, coming at you in an even better way than I did the day before. So let's go ahead and do it some more. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that thing. Let's do that thing. So, you know what time it is. You know what you need to do today. First and foremost, if you're watching on Facebook, give us a like. If you're watching on the tube, give us a thumbs up. And then go ahead and share with all your friends and your family. Let them know that they need to check in here. If they don't want to hear a sorrowful plea, but they just like to enjoy seeing some more of me. Yeah. As I talk to you, I got the perfect proverb for today. A strawberry blossom will not sweeten dry bread. A strawberry blossom will not sweeten dry bread. And that's a proverb from the country of Buganda. Buganda, or from the nation of Buganda, because Buganda is not actually a country, but the Buganda people, or the Bugandan people, live in the country of Uganda, as well as some other neighboring countries, I'm quite sure as well, because that's just usually how things go. So, a strawberry blossom will not sweeten dry bread. Now, speaking of the country of Buganda, we're going to do a little piece that incorporates little small piece on the people of Buganda. Let me go ahead and transition over here to our slideshow. Put on the slideshow, and I'm going to go grab this little booklet here because I have the perfect piece. Uganda is a country that my family and I went to visit way back in the year 1970. And when we went to visit there, it was there were some very interesting things that we saw that I remember, even though I was only 12 years old. Yeah, even as a 12-year-old, I can remember a lot of things that I saw. So I'll be right back. But now, one of the things that people have been talking about in regards to Juneteenth are some misconceptions about Juneteenth. Let me see if I can go through them. Number one, Juneteenth is not, Galveston, Texas was not the site of the first celebration of that kind. We read that in the book yesterday for our evening program. We read that in the book yesterday that there were other places that had celebrated our emancipation much earlier, because there were people that were emancipated earlier than the people of Galveston. So that was number one. Number two, that it wasn't that we about the Emancipation Proclamation. We had heard about the Emancipation Proclamation, but them daggone Southerners, them Rebs, were not following the directions. Why? Because it said that if they were in a state of rebellion, those were the areas where the slaves would be free. But the Union knew, Abe Lincoln, good old Abe Lincoln, he knew at the time that he wrote that thing that if we were in a state where the states were, the population was in rebellion, they were not going to be able to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation. So in other words, it was the letter was dead on arrival. It only could be enforced in areas that were in rebellion that the Union was occupying. So if the Union didn't occupy the area, then slavery was still going on. And that's what happened in Texas. And let's see, what was the other one? There was another one in there. The main one is that we did not just sit around waiting for somebody else to give us our freedom like it was a side dish at a restaurant or something. We actively were working and fighting for our freedom, but in Texas, fighting for your freedom, if you were unsuccessful, there was a death penalty that went along with it. So maybe you didn't hear about that. And so what we're going to be reading about, right now is how our African brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters on the continent were in a similar situation in terms of what they were dealing with in the country of Uganda. And Uganda is a country that you rarely hear about. You rarely hear anything about the Ugandan country, the country of Uganda at all. When you do hear something about them, usually it's something derogatory. It has to do with some Christian soldiers up in the north, or it has to do with Idi Amin, who happened to have been a Muslim. He was not a Christian, etc. But these Christians are terrorists. So, these are the kind of things that you usually hear about. Or you hear about the raid on Entebbe, where the Zionists out of Israel invaded Uganda, the Ugandan airport, the main airport. They only had one main airport at Entebbe. So you hear about the raid on Entebbe. So what I wanted to do is just to clarify what actually was going on in Uganda, and what is it that my father and my parents and other people that went with us, what did we actually see and experience when we were in Uganda in 1970 that led to Idi Amin's rise to power and his taking over the government and expelling a bunch of people. That's what we're going to read about. All right. So I've got a map here that shows you where Uganda is. Let me just show the map real quick here. I'm just going to show the map. You can see the map right there. Okay. Now you see that map, colonial legacy, Uganda and the Asian expulsion. Uganda and the Asian expulsion. And what is true for Uganda has been true for us. So reading about what happened to them is the same as reading about what happened to us, but they tell the story in just a few pages. So let's see what they have to say here. This is in the magazine I'm reading from is called Black World. Okay, you all probably don't remember this magazine. It used to be called the Negro Digest, but when times got black, they changed it from the Negro Digest to Black World, and it was published by the same people that published Ebony and Jet. But this one was what you call like a lost leader. It was something that never did make money, but it had all the honey, because they have all kinds of articles in here that were of a more scholarly nature. This was run by, oh man, I can't think of that brother's name. Who is the editor of this daggone thing? Oh wow, here it says the executive editor is Hoyt Fuller. But that's not who I was thinking of. I was thinking of somebody else whose name I can't recall right off the bat. Okay, but when I do recall, I'll let you know. Meanwhile, let's move on. Article is written by Zuberi I. Mwamba, just like a friend of mine, Kalfani Mwamba. When all has been said, when all has been said, the Asians placed themselves in a precarious position, and they became easy targets for those seeking easy solutions for complex problems. That's a quote from the story. Early in August 1972, General Idi Amin, president of Uganda, ordered the expulsion of the non-Uganda citizens from the East African nation. He gave the expected 50,000 to 80,000 Asians 90 days. That was up to November 7th, 1972 to get out of the country. He later extended his order to include even Asians holding Ugandan citizenship. Succumbing to criticism from within, mainly students, and from outside Uganda, General Amin backed down from his order of expelling Asians with Ugandan citizenship, estimated to number about 25,000. These orders and numerous subsequent pronouncements attributed to General Amin have led to a barrage of criticism and comments relative to the Uganda government's handling of the Asian affair. It is my contention that the whole Asian question, whether in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, or Zambia, has its roots in the British colonial system. It is my purpose in this article to analyze the expulsion order in light of the international condemnation it has created. In East Africa, the term Asian usually refers to Indians, Pakistanis, and now Bangladeshi nationals. During colonial days, in a few instances, even now, all the above groups were called Indians. Essentially, the Asian community can be divided into three groups: those who arrived in East Africa before European colonialism and settled mainly in Zanzibar, engaged in trade and money lending. They were few in number and rarely ventured into the mainland. The second group were laborers recruited in India for the construction of the Kenya-Uganda Railway in 1896. At one time, they numbered up to 15,000. At the conclusion of the project around 1903, many of them returned to India and some settled in East Africa. A third group comprised of petty traders who opened up shops along the railway line as it was being constructed. The first group was made up of relatively rich Indians who mostly stayed along the coast. Those from the second and the third groups migrated into the interior. It is fair to assume that their contribution to the Ugandan economy at the turn of the century was non-existent. But if they were poor, how did they become wealthy enough in just about 50 years to make it possible for General Amin to order their expulsion en masse? We must turn to British colonialism for our answer. The Kenya-Ugandan Railway did not reach Uganda in 1903. It stopped at the lake port of Kisumu. The Asian and Ugandan economy, in order for the British to exploit Kenya, they came up with the idea of quote-unquote white settlement in the cool, fertile highlands. When Indians asked for land in this area, they were denied it. Meanwhile, in Uganda, which had been declared a British protectorate in theory only in 1902, but in reality was a colony, cotton was developed as a cash crop. Most of the revenue from Uganda came from cotton, which was grown mainly by Africans and sold to Indian traders as middlemen, who then exported it overseas. The cotton economy of Uganda was organized as follows. Africans would grow cotton under the scientific advice of European, mostly British agriculturalists and administrators, sell it to the Indian traders for export. The Indian traders obtained loans from the government to set up ginneries. They also obtained financial assistance from the Aga Khan, Muslims only. In this way, they managed to increase the volume of goods and the size of their shops. When this cotton came back in the form of finished products, that is textiles, it was the Indian shopkeeper who sold the shirts, trousers, etc. to the Africans. the colonized African was buying back his cotton at a higher price than he received when he sold it raw to the Indian. Boom. End of story for today. Now, that is what we saw. And I don't know how many of you recall this, but I recall growing up when my dad and my mom wanted to say I was doing something really crazy. They had a little saying they used to use. They say, "Boy, you must be out of your cotton picking mind." And I was always wondering, I was like, why they always saying I'm out of my cotton picking mind? I ain't never picked no cotton. Why they keep saying that for? Well, that's because picking cotton is something we did over here, but we weren't the only ones. As you can see from what I'm reading here, even on the continent of Africa, in what they call deepest, darkest Africa, Uganda. You know, when you go to Uganda, the first thing I noticed about Uganda, because I was 12 and I said I was gonna wave at every black person I saw, because I was leaving Kent, Ohio to go straight to Uganda, and I ain't see nothing around here but white folks and a sprinkling of black folks every now and then. So I said I was gonna wave at every black person I saw. I darn near waved my arm off. But what I noticed is that there were no people that looked like us. There were no light brown, almost lighter than a paper bag. There were no cafe au lait. There were no. They didn't have all that. They had one color. Everybody was the same complexion, bar none. I mean, if there was a shade of difference, it was by just a shade, a hair, and that was about it. But everybody was the same complexion. So when they say deepest, darkest Africa, they're speaking about us. They're not talking about the sun don't shine, because there were plenty of sun there. They're talking about us, where there were no white people, period, dot. So even there, they had managed to enslave the Africans in our own country, quote unquote, picking cotton, selling it to the Indians, and then it returning to Africa, where the Indians could sell it back to us in a finished form at a much higher price. That's the game that they've been running. And it's not just in Uganda. You can go anywhere you want to go in Africa. You drop down out the sky, you'll see the same thing, and it's still happening today. It happens with the oil. It happens with sisal in Zimbabwe. It happens all over the continent. This is the system that they set up. So we're going to return to this topic tomorrow. So be here at noon, and we'll go at it one more time. In the meanwhile, we're going to sign off. You know where to find us tonight, because this is Doc Ock at noon and 9. So I'll be right back here at 9 o'clock. We'll be reading some more stories related to Juneteenth and the Black experience. Right about now, what we need everybody to do, within the sound of my voice, if you hear my voice, what I need you to do, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. I hope that you've subscribed to YouTube, though, and you're watching on YouTube. Then you give us a thumbs up. And then after you've done both of one or the other of those, go ahead and become a sustaining member of the Black Facts family. How do you do that? Very simply. You do that by clicking a donate button. If you look on our website, blakfacts.org, donate buttons in the top right corner on the home page. Boom. Easy to make a donation there. If you're on your cell phone or your laptop, you can easily donate there. If you're on the laptop, look right below the live stream, donate button there, or you click our profile picture, donate button there. And if you're on a cell phone, then you want to go click notifications, and over there you'll find a link. You can make a donation there. Please try to make it a recurring donation if you can. If not, a one-time donation will be just fine. 5, 10, 15, 20. All we're asking for is a little bit of money. Because you give us more money, we're going to give you more honey. That's how this whole thing works. It's called reciprocity. One hand washing the other. So, meanwhile, let me go ahead and sign off. I'm going into my extra. Peace out without a doubt. Let me say goodbye to Almas de Ja. Peace out.